I'm drinking coffee because I was like almost falling asleep in the last hour of work. And I was like, I think I need some caffeine before I podcast.
I felt like I was going to fall asleep as soon as I got home. And then, of course, once we're here, I'm like, second wind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No worries.
That's why I'm guzzling soup so I don't have the shakes when I'm like my blood sugar drops and I pass out.
Yes, and you're
Yep.
clearly also locked in the basement. Your family is afraid of you for some reason. We have yet to learn.
There's just cans of soup in an opener.
Don't let her out till the podcast's over.
I hate you.
All right, I think I'm leaving all this in.
Hail them. Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Hailing frequencies open.
I don't know why I keep giving alien street food a chance. It's always such a gamble.
Captain, we're being hailed.
On screen.
Hello and welcome to another Hailing Frequencies Open podcast where we are trekking through the past and future of Star Trek. As always, I'm your host, Mike Jones, and joining me this week is my co-host, Damian. How you doing, Damian?
I'm excellent. How are you, Mike?
I'm good. You're in a very well-lit room.
Well, it's daylight. It's still daylight. The days are getting longer. It is 7:15 in the evening, and I'm getting the sunset over the Hudson.
I closed the curtains like a vampire bat to record, so it's dark in here.
Yes, the lighting will change over the next probably half hour. So just
How
wait to see me get all dark and moody. So
and we are lucky enough to welcome back our friend Lanita to the pod. Hey, Lanita.
Whoop whoop. I'm so excited to be back.
yeah.
In the last time Lanita was here, we got feedback that her volume level was lower than ours. So bless her heart, she's now wearing Apple
Old school plug-in earbuds with a little mic. So I'm gonna hold it up so you all can hear me.
I'm hearing her in my ear like she's right next to me. So I feel good about it.
This is the best technology that 2010 has to offer.
I mean, hey, listen, if I become a series regular, I will invest in a microphone. But right now, I'm still auditioning for my trailer.
It's like Live with Kelly.
Absolutely. We've got to see how the audience feels. And if I get the audience vote, I will invest.
Today we are discussing we decided to just kind of listen to what's going on in the Star Trek universe. Star Trek Picard season 3 just wrapped up, and we were like, let's talk about it. We're talking about it in our life. We might as well hit record and start talking about it.
Otherwise, we're podcasting and ignoring the elephant in the room. We can't do that.
Right, exactly. Well, I'm going to skip to the end and talk about the elephant in the room. Why have they not announced Legacy yet? Do you think it's going to happen?
I mean, it's got to happen. It has got to happen.
But do you think writer's strike has happened?
I was going to say, do you think it's the writer's strike?
Well, listen. The writer's strike brought us the epic season 2 flops of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
The Child.
all of the things that we now decades later we hear all of the amazing ideas that they had for like season long arcs in season 2, and of course we get The Child, and we get Shades of Grey where Riker remembers all the things that happened to him in the previous episodes.
Right, he gets attacked by a clip show and well, let's hope that they get what they want and they don't go, the strike ends quickly, so that we can get what we want, which is Star Trek Legacy.
It really is what we want. I mean, they really left us. They
set it up.
Yeah. I mean, Captain Seven. I mean,
right.
The new crew. They gave a ship to a thief, a spy, and a
pirate.
I
had to when they said that, I really honestly had to pause and be like, wait, so okay, Jack steals medical supplies. Fenris Rangers are like pirates, right? Kind of.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And Rafi is a spy.
I thought the Fenris Rangers were more like vigilantes than pirates, but
Yeah, I think that was like a
maybe they're pirates with a heart of gold.
Maybe they're playing fast and loose with pirate. Maybe I'm misremembering the quote. Wouldn't be the first time.
It's like there's I saw online, it was like kind of like a meme. It was a page from a Disney children's book of Jake and the Neverland Pirates, and it's Jake, who's a pirate, saying pirates never lie, and it's like, I don't think Disney understands what pirates are. Okay, so I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, with there's been all this sort of like fan outcry, like they call it Terry Trek is the hashtag, right? That give Terry Matalas control of his own Star Trek and give him the whole franchise. Everyone's like wild about everything that he's doing, and support all of that. But as soon as I saw the ending to this episode, I felt like a little manipulated by all of that. Like, oh, it's all. They're creating this whole like, will they or won't they? I mean, they literally just handed us a setup for a new show that is so clear and overt, like what that show would be.
Right? Do you think they were just manipulating us into
thinking that it won't happen? Yes, I feel like we're feeding it right now, being like, will they or won't they? Like, and nothing's been greenlit yet.
Hype. They're just generating hype.
Isn't that always what they do? They set it up and then they've already made the decision, but they know if they don't say anything,
right,
that the fandom will just be like, "Arr, arr, arr."
That's true. Right. And it's not like they're going to say mid-season, like, hey, we greenlit this new show starring Seven of Nine as the captain. No. I mean, it's a spoiler.
Right. That's true. Yeah, they'll just be like a Comic-Con trailer drop or something, and it'll be like
everyone's head will explode, and then we'll just be waiting, be like, tomorrow, when is it happening? And then they'll give you a date far off in the
like
future.
In 2 years.
Well, and it's so crazy that, like, think about how they managed to do this entire season without us knowing about it for so long. Like, the whole thing had to be entirely wrapped before they dropped that like little teaser announcing that everyone was coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And even after
no one
that,
knew anything.
They did not leak the Enterprise. Like
they didn't leak anything.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they respected us and respected the folks who like are like, I won't say true fans, but are like fans who are willing to put in the time and the work and to just say, I will wait. Thank you for giving me this. And now I'm going to follow through and watch it to the end. Like it just, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so good. I honestly, I hope of the biggest of hopes that I get to see 7 of 9 captaining that ship.
I mean, at the end of season 1, I was like, where's the 7 of 9 spinoff? I was ready for like a Fenris Ranger, like, adventure show with 7 of 9.
Because she's one of the most amazing characters. Like, I've loved her since the beginning.
Yeah, she's well written, and Jerry Ryan is amazing.
Amazing.
I mean, just so brilliant.
And the funny thing is, have either of you gone back to watch any Voyager since this has come out? Because
a little bit.
Because I feel like the 7 of 9 that we have now is just so much richer than we ever knew on that show.
Yeah.
And maybe because it's like, because it's new and still coming, and we're left wondering where it's going, but it just really feels like making her so much more human than we knew her is only just making her more complex and more compelling, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that's because that is where characters have gone. Like you can no longer write two-dimensional characters. There has to be actual motivation. It can't just be blocking, walk stage right, walk down stage. Well, what's my motivation? Like there has to be something else behind it. And I think rounding every character out, like everyone who came back, they had backstory, and you're like, oh yes, there's a history, but it's like they cracked open another chapter. It's like, okay, we ended on chapter 7. Guess what? There's 16 more. And now we're at chapter 9. And now we're going back you didn't know that there was a prologue. Here's the prologue. Like it just everybody got that.
Yeah.
Well, and everybody had we had the Roddenberry rule against conflict in Next Generation, right? Because the conflict was always supposed to come from the outside. Our heroes were never supposed to be in conflict with one another. And literally every one of our main characters, new ones and old ones, all had conflict with another character. And they had internal conflict within themselves. They were at odds with something within themselves that we've not seen before in a lot of these characters. Geordie LaForge, when have you seen him?
Woohoo!
Oh, he showed up and it was like, it was
okay,
not,
sir.
Yes.
Okay.
It was
not
Jody.
what we knew.
No.
He was angry daddy.
Yeah. It's like he experienced life. Like everyone had a life after that last poker game.
Right.
On Next Gen. It was like time to live something, and they're coming back fully realized. They've
grown and changed as human beings or Klingons or whatever.
But fundamentally they're still their true selves, but it's just like, whew, the years have dwarfed the biggest mind there's ever been.
I feel like that's a whole episode. We just do like a new Worf podcast. I mean, that is like its own topic once we go down that road. Oh, holy shit. That is like,
I do love the silver. I love the what, it's really white, the white hair. It just, there's something about it. It works so well.
And how about at the end of it all, like finally, like everything has been saved and he comes back and he sits in the chair on the bridge and he fucking goes to sleep.
Like,
what?
Yes.
Like he's an old man.
Right.
They're surprising us with these choices.
I know.
He's an old man. He's like, I am a warrior. It was not a good day to die. And now I shall rest.
I never thought he would be the comic relief in the season. But yeah, they used him really well. Really well.
Do you feel like he lost anything in comic relief?
I don't, because he still kicks butt, and I think he's still at his core the same character. I think that there were some missed opportunities with the season. And the one that Worf makes me think of, the season seemed to be all about this generation, no pun, dealing with being parents and their children, and there was no mention of Alexander at all, like zero. A tiny mention of Wesley, because she says that she lost Wesley to the stars,
which means what?
Well, like, it's funny. Will Wheaton answered this question on Twitter. He was like, this isn't canon, but this is the best you're going to get. In his head canon, when he agreed to be a traveler, that meant he had to disconnect from his previous life.
Okay.
And those relationships.
Okay. I forgot about that. Like you all are so like immersed in like, oh, that's right. I was like, yeah, he's gone.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Right. He's Doctor Who now.
Fair enough.
I mean, essentially, yeah, he's a time traveler, and protecting the timeline is how they.
That's right. Keeping the timeline. What is it? Not congruent. Is congruent the word? I feel like that's not
intact.
Intact. Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
The continuity of the timeline. That's what I was thinking of, but I don't know why
continuity.
Well, and he does. I mean, if we go back to season 2 of Picard, right? We learned that the Laris lookalike, whose name is escaping me now, her job was to make sure that the young Picard, Renee Picard, it does that space mission because it's integral to the timeline.
She was a watcher.
She was a watcher. Yes. Which takes us back to Gary 7.
Yeah.
Which takes us back to the Traveler, which, so it is, that's his job.
Let's talk about season 2 for a second. What now, looking back at it through the lens of season 3, how do you feel season 2 holds up?
I'm gonna defend season 2. I mean, they clearly largely ignored the events of season 2 as part of this. I think a lot of that is explainable. Like, why didn't the Agnes Girardi Borg Queen come and help out? But that's easily explainable. Like that happened in a way far away other part of space. She wasn't nearby.
Right. Her phone was on silent.
But I don't think that it is, I don't think it holds up as well as this does. This is clearly the superior season, but I do, I'm not mad about a quiet character story that like takes us into, first of all, his history with Guinan more. And that, like, that the story of Picard is a man who struggles to connect with the people that he loves, and who takes the weight of the world, weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. That moment where and learning that it is because of this childhood trauma. I think it makes a degree of sense. And that moment where the other Laris is sort of dying in his arms, and she says that the how many worlds did you need to save to let go of this burden? I think there's I think that is, I think that there's something that grew in him with all of that. And I'm not willing to fully write it off, but
okay. It's
I
definitely
can get behind all of that.
Yeah. It's definitely character.
It's different.
Right.
It's
Character
different.
focused.
It was totally, it was a departure. Like Picard was a departure, but that was like, okay. Like singular focus of what this is. It was super dark and weird, and weirder than Star Trek had been for me. Like, but I do agree with the point of like something changed him. I enjoyed learning about that childhood trauma. Like, you now understand why he is the way he is. That's what I mean. Like they were giving backstory. Or it's like, oh, why is he always, you always thought, or I always thought it was like, oh, he's a captain, so he has to be separate. Right. And like the original series is like Kirk they were pals, they were buddies. It was like they probably did go drinking.
Yeah.
Picard was like, I am not drinking with y'all.
Anyway, I'm not playing cards with you guys.
No, like I'm the captain. I've got so many things to think about. You have off time. Like when I'm giving someone the bridge, I'm still barely sleeping.
Right.
My positronic body doesn't need rest. I'm just walking away because that's what they need me to do.
That's funny.
It does not hold up to 3. No. 3 is like, in my mind, it's kind of perfection for me.
Yeah, I mean, 2 started strong. I loved seeing that alternate, almost like a mirror universe. That was a lot of fun. And 7 of 9 was amazing there when she was pretending to be the president and whatever. She just like kicked ass. She took charge. But I didn't love the Brent Spiner Soong plot. It was a little bit convoluted. Like it's like they needed to give Brent something to do. And the Q thing was a little confusing, and even more confusing that now he's back. Not to
how is that confusing?
No, listen. No, it's not confusing at all. I mean, think about it. Think about I hate to go back to Doctor Who.
Who
with a time traveler, you just that's yes, true. He did die, but a younger version of him knows the future and has come back to see Jack Crusher.
That's true.
Q can, just because Q it is, and I hate to make this parallel because it is obscure if you don't know it, but on Doctor Who, River Song, right? River Song dies the first time we meet her, right? If I remember correctly, and then we meet, and then the next time we meet her is before that, and the next time we meet her is, so her story goes backwards. So you
like
see
character. No one saw that movie.
Kind of like Memento.
There's my obscure reference that did not land.
Sorry, but it is you're moving back where you're just seeing him at a different point in his timeline. So yes, he can still die. You're just seeing a younger version of him, and because he's omnipotent, he knows his future, and he knows that he will die.
Right. So he chose to, yeah. I mean, that you're right. That does make perfect sense. I didn't.
Oh, that's like Pike seeing his future and still choosing to do what he did.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yes.
I'm excited that we're getting more Strange New Worlds next month. But that's not the show we're talking about today.
I know. I was like, oh.
Okay, so I'm gonna I know we're jumping all over the place and I love it. I heard a interpretation of the season that I don't know how I feel about it. So apparently Terry Matalas has said that his intention with 7 of 9 and her name issue was like a trans allegory, that Shaw was dead naming her, and that, which I think is really, really interesting and really cool. Then this interpretation takes it to the next step, and if her Borg identity is her trans identity, then the Borg being the enemy and literally the boomers having to save everyone from the trans allegory seems problematic.
That I think is a stretch, because
Mike
be
Jones
clear.
just twisted himself in a pretzel, I think. I don't know.
No, but I see how somebody drew that line.
Yeah,
but that's insane. Like, the Borg queen wanted to destroy everyone and everything. Like, the idea of the Borg is resistance is futile. Everyone will be assimilated.
Right.
No one in the trans community is trying to assimilate anybody. What they're trying to do is be their true selves and just
live
ask
their
you
lives.
and just live their lives and just say, hey, here's my name. Here are my pronouns.
Use it.
That's all I'm asking. That's it. That's it. No one is saying, guess what? Because I am, you have to be. That's a whole other separate faction of this country, right?
Yeah.
I think that 7 of 9, that being her name, is that she became comfortable with who she was, right? Like she was assimilated by the Borg, and through Voyager, we watched her become more human, less Borgy, and like the different implants being taken out, yada, yada, yada. And then it was like her learning to love herself as she was. She couldn't change who she was. Like, you can't take out all the implants. They're there, the positronics, that they have to be what they have to be. And her being like, oh, this is who I am. My name is 7. I am not that other name. I'm not that person, because I haven't been that person. I was however old she was when, her family died and she got like, that's not me. This is me. So yeah, my legal name, my birth name is Henson, but guess what? My chosen name is 7 of 9.
Right. And
that's interesting too, because I think, you wonder if she blames, because it's her parents. The story was that her parents put her in jeopardy, and she, her whole assimilation, which is traumatizing, was because her parents put her in a highly risky situation.
Right. They're like, hey, let's take our kid and go study the Borg.
That sounds perfectly safe.
Perfectly safe. It's also interesting, I mean, just to loop back into season 2, that her story, you remember when she goes back in time, where she goes to the alternate universe and then from there back in time, she's not a Borg at all. She's on a cancer. She's fully human. And that when she comes back, and now I forget the specifics of how it happens, but she accepts her Borg. It gets integrated into her. And she has to make peace with that. And so she had this moment of being human, and then goes back to her more complex identity and accepts it.
Yeah. Doesn't she have, she's trying to save Girardi or something like that. And that's the sacrifices that she had to assimilate herself again, become assimilated again.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that in the very end, when they get rid of the captain that we all hated for however many episodes, the very end, he said, you have it, 7 of 9. And I just was like,
Oh my God, it's so good.
You finally accept her for who she is. As I cry through the entire final episode of this series.
All right, so now let's get the sort of coda to that, right? It was when she sees the log entry that he writes about her.
Yeah.
Sobbing again.
Right. So in other words, like, we've hated him, but he's not entirely what we thought he was.
Right.
He's much more, he's
complex.
Yeah,
he's
wounded.
He's a whole person.
He's dealing with some major trauma from Wolf 359, and like the fact that he had this first officer who was Borg, and he has this trauma attached to that. Like that must have been really difficult for him, and it's fascinating to see that he, behind closed doors, was able to see past that, but
and
couldn't
separate.
quite do it in person.
And also, he questions our heroes, and he questions our heroes for like legit reasons, because yes, they saved the galaxy, right? And they ended up being,
y'all have done that 1,000 times. Good.
Right. But like, if they had very little to go on, this was a personal mission, and he was like, why am I risking my crew for you? And he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
When you think with your logical brain,
he's
absolutely right.
If there wasn't a changeling plot, a changeling/Borg plot, if it was just Beverly ran into a problem with some whatever fill in the blank alien of the week, then Picard and Riker would really be in trouble for what they did. But the fact that it turned out that there were, saboteurs on the ship at that time, and they were stumbling into it, like, then it kind of like all got forgiven, I think. But Shaw was very right.
Very right.
He was a dick about
absolutely. But
they were on a personal mission. They were on a family mission.
A family mission.
Which was, and they were using, I mean, that's the crazy thing now. And I'm so eager to do a rewatch of all of this.
Absolutely.
They were using their clout as heroes.
Yeah.
To scam their way onto the ship. And they were open about that with each other. They're like, this is what we're going to do.
Scammers.
Yeah. They were totally scammers.
Did you ever think that you would call Picard a scammer?
No, but I think it's terrific. And the thing is, he scammed because on some level he knew that Beverly would not call him if something wasn't really for real. Like she has cut them off so hard that she was not going to reappear over nothing. That whatever she needed, if she needed him, something big must be happening.
Right. I think that was an interesting choice on the part of the writers to create Shaw, because it could have been written that they, they call up Geordi or Jellicoe or, someone that we know, or maybe not Jellicoe, but someone that we know who would trust them.
Definitely not Jellicoe.
Definitely not. I don't know why I said Jellicoe.
And go with the flow.
And just go with the flow and be like, oh, Bev's in trouble. All right, here we go. Batten down the hatches.
But there's no conflict in that.
There's no conflict there. Yeah. Yeah. It was a great choice.
And the way that they knew what we wanted is we wanted all of our 7 people back on that ship.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
And they really, and we needed it's that magic number. That's exactly what we needed. And they knew that it wasn't going to work without Data.
Nope.
Yeah.
And they knew that there was no payoff to it if they gave it to us all at once. And so the like sort of brick
teasing
by
it
brick
out.
Rebuilding of that was done so beautifully.
Yeah.
And weaving them into the new characters that we had grown, like the Rafi of it all.
Yeah.
Like how, integrating that warrior with Worf as the warrior and like watching them grow together. It's just, I did enjoy seeing Moriarty again, though. I will have to admit that.
Yeah, that was
fun. And I didn't need more of him. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like it was the perfect cameo.
Needed that much.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about him tying in with Data in that way, and there were some deep cuts there. There was the bird from Data's dream, that like dream episode.
Yes, I would not have caught that.
Yeah.
That was not. I found. I was told that.
Speaking of characters that we've known, that we've grown to love, Laris has a great first episode, and then he forgets about her. I just wish she came back in the very end if she was at that poker game, because they're back on Earth. They're at 10 Forward.
But she's not on Earth. She's gone off she's on a separate mission of her own. You know, he was going to go off and with her on her mission. So she's gone off somewhere far away. And
it's okay.
No, I think it's okay. And I think that I mean, I would love to see, I love that actress. I love that character. I love that she has like so much depth and heart and is like a badass, like fighting spy. And I love that they had a relationship. And but you know, I think maybe some of that was about Picard learning to love or learning to let someone in, or you know, like maybe he kind of got what he needed from her so as to be ready for, you know, the real love in his life, which he didn't know was there, which was his son.
Right. I don't know. It still bugs me. I wanted to see, like, you know, I don't know. She's like Jack's stepmom, you know, like I wanted her to come back.
Well, you know, I feel like they could have done, especially, you know, everything in the beginning felt very perfectly paced and like, and then all of that, and the last maybe 2 or 3 episodes happened very fast.
They did.
And I mean, it was good that that things moved quickly, but I felt like they could have taken I mean, obviously they were given 10 episodes. That's what they had to work with.
Yeah.
But, you know, another 2 or 3 could have really.
What would you have wanted out of 2 or 3?
I would have well, I mean, I think Laris I think there's some closure there to see her again and to like.
So that's 1 episode. What you got for 2 more? Like what in the no. I'm not being like listen. I always want more Star Trek. You could have done 20 episodes. I would have been in here watching. Sure. But like, what of the episodes in the 10 are there any that you would have, like, you know, Harry Potter's 7th movie, 2 books, you know, 2 movies for the last book? Is there any of that you would have rather had split into 2 episodes to give something more time to develop?
The thing I wanted was, you know, I've already forgot her name. Amanda Plummer.
Vadic.
It's like, it's Vadic. Oh, it's changelings. It's changelings. We defeat them. It's the Borg. I wanted some changeling Borg overlap. I wanted to find out how is the Borg working happen? With them?
Okay,
was that like weird blobby face, the Queen that
understood
was talking to?
Okay, I'm with you. I thought so. There would have been 2 episodes that we would learn why Vadic is beholden to the blobby head.
Yeah.
And then why changelings and the Borg decided that the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right.
Or is my enemy too.
Yeah. I also wanted to know about Vadic's henchmen. Clearly were changelings, but they were somehow lesser. She viewed them as a lesser form of life than herself.
Correct.
She killed them very easily. They clearly were some sort of liquid, but they almost seemed like they were like built into that suit. So like it felt like they had
an exoskeleton
that maybe got cut out, or there was some sort of, or maybe they were engineered by her, or
I started to think
I felt like there was more there that wasn't clear.
Like, because in the flashback scene where we learn about her being tortured and experimented on, there were other changelings, you know, in the little tubes on the shelf or whatever that were being experimented on. So I kind of thought maybe they were the other victims, but you're right. Then why were they in those weird mask, like stormtrooper costumes? I don't understand. There's some plot holes that I just could have been.
There's your 3 episodes. Okay.
Yeah.
You win.
More Star Trek. We all win.
Well, and it's interesting because there were, some things have like come out about some things that they were intending to do. Like they wanted more episodes with Rolaren. She had 4 days or something like crazy like that. They wanted they wanted to bring in Janeway and Harry Kim.
Yeah, I heard that.
Now imagine that Tuvok scene with Seven and Janeway instead of Seven and Tuvok. I actually prefer it the way it is, because I don't think a Janeway cameo serves this story. I feel like, first of all, it's a character that deserves more than a cameo at the end of someone else's series.
Absolutely.
And I feel like she sort of, because Janeway, Cisco, Kirk, obviously, they're alphas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Picard, obviously. So I feel like an alpha like that, like a central character in the canon, making a sort of
they're first on the call sheet. You're not putting them at number 2.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Right. So I felt like that
they name dropped her a lot.
And I mean, they couldn't not.
Yeah,
you have to give reverence because that is Seven of Nine's mentor, sort of like
right
new mother.
Yeah, and the woman who poisons the Borg and like is the reason that the Borg Queen is this,
yes,
crippled,
haggard.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Hold on. Here's my. This Borg Queen is different than the Borg Queen that sucked what's her face, made her make the choice to become the Borg Queen. Girardi. No, not Girardi. What is her name? Yes.
Different timeline.
Different timeline. That's why. Great. Is this one? Oh, she looks rough. She has started like cannibalizing her children.
Yes. And it's amazing the way they did it, and that they still use the voice of Alice Krige.
Yeah. I wonder why they didn't use the face of Alice Krige.
Apparently it was it's cheaper to hire her for voice acting. They were when you look at a lot of the choices that they made, and it was really, I think that they didn't have a lot of money to work with.
They reused a lot of sets.
It was the same. They redressed the Stargazer from the previous season and made the bridge out of it.
Yeah, it was the Shrike Bridge.
The Shrike Bridge was La Serena.
Oh, it was La Serena. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that Beverly's ship was La Serena sets redressed.
It makes sense.
But I'm glad they didn't spare any expense with the bridge of the D. Because it is meticulously, beautifully reproduced and saved. I mean, they were very forward about that. Like it didn't go into a dumpster. Like it is there for whatever we want to use it for next.
Good.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's in pieces, but it disassembled. It was built to be saved, though.
And what a brilliant invention the Fleet Museum is.
Oh yeah.
And it was dropped so casually.
Can we just talk about that? Like, and we're flying in, and here's every ship that we know and love, and other ships that we have no idea about that are just docked, like in rings around what reminds you of Deep Space Nine, but better. And they're just hanging out in these rings, and you get to go on them like the Intrepid here in New York. Like,
right?
What? Can you imagine being like, okay, I want to go see the original series ship. Boop 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 boop. Oh, this is where Uhura set. Like, okay,
amazing.
I'm going to Voyager. Like it was so pretty. And the fact that Geordi is there as the engineer, who of course would be the one holding on to this fleet.
Yeah.
And of course the Enterprise D is like his jalopy in the garage.
Absolutely.
I mean, it totally checks out.
It does.
Yeah. I'm still looking for the knob that goes here.
And the Star Drive section came from where? Did anybody catch that?
Syracuse?
Yes. Hello, that's my hometown, people. Clearly that was meant for me. That was
obviously
aimed directly
as a letter writer,
obviously.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote too many letters as a child. They remember me. The kid from Syracuse is writing is crazy. Actually, no, they're probably like that deranged adult from Syracuse who's secretly 8.
The TOS ship that we see is the New Jersey because Terry Metalis is from New Jersey. It's the USS New Jersey.
So
Isn't that funny? I also thought it was interesting and smart, but hard to stretch my head around that when they show that TOS Constitution class ship, it is not the Disco Prize. It is not the like Strange New Worlds version of the Constitution. It is Shatner, you know,
our version,
1966 version, which is fascinating. Because in the first season of Picard, we do see, a hologram of the other Connie. So yeah, it's an interesting world where they both exist somehow. I mean, obviously this is there's a real world reason, and it's nostalgia and everything. And I'm
absolutely, but that's exactly why it's like, hello, this is the first crown jewel, and the Enterprise is the last crown jewel.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why the bridge that they rebuilt was not the version from Star Trek Generations with the extra side stations, because that's not the version that we saw for 7 years that people are nostalgic about.
Right.
Or maybe Jordy couldn't get the parts.
I mean, who of us is really nostalgic for Generations?
I saw that on a date with a girl. It was that long.
Dating yourself, are we?
How did that date end?
With me being very excited about Star Trek.
I love it. How do we feel about Rafi in this?
I hated her hair at the end.
Oh yes. God, me too.
Yes.
Thank you.
I was like, what is this?
That is not regulation.
And not even that. Like, she's had much better hairstyles. Like,
yeah.
Like, I just feel like it just wasn't badass enough. Like, because Rafi to me is like, she is Klingon light. Like, that is why her and Worf got along. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Full name.
I don't know how I feel about her being Seven's first officer.
Why come?
It felt a little bit like the Orville, I don't know if you watched the Orville, but the first officer,
but I know about it.
The captain is, Seth MacFarlane, and the first officer is like his ex who cheated on him.
Yeah.
Not that Raffi cheated on her, but like having that kind of chemistry between the captain and first officer is, I don't know.
But they don't. But
Worf
the thing
wouldn't
is,
like it.
No, he wouldn't at all. But but I don't think they'll ever like. I would if they have greenlit, have done, their version of Star Trek. I do not see them ever being like together. Like, no, that's past. It makes their working relationship.
They're mature.
Yeah. They maybe have a shorthand because they were romantically involved, but that ship has sailed. And now it's like Rafi is sort of like the strong arm and maybe can push 7 of 9 in ways that other people can't. To like have those behind the doors conversations. Like, what are you doing?
I like that.
I also am not willing to let go of Rafi being connected to Worf.
Yeah.
Like that was was too like, there was all these whispers like, ooh, they're talking about a Rafi and Worf spinoff. Would watch that show.
Absolutely.
That was
a heartbeat.
100%. And I'm all for like the fan conspiracy theories. I'm a freaking easy target for them. And that one I like fully bought. I was like ready to buy into that for sure. And
it would be great.
So that was my only disappointment in seeing her in that first officer's chair that doesn't mean that Worf is written out of it. Worf can come back and continue his story with her because he is her mentor,
Absolutely. Listen, this gives license for them to have their own adventures within both of these worlds.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I loved how strong she was, and it started out with giving us a hint of her still being an addict, and then she was really just undercover, but she does still struggle because she's a human being.
Absolutely. And addiction is a disease.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing, and this goes back to the ending being rushed, there's that scene between her and Worf where Worf is like, or she says, someone leaked that I've been doing all these brave things and now my family will talk to me again. Like, I kind of wish we'd seen some of that.
Yeah. And I also, it made me sad for her career as a spy.
Yeah, sure.
It's very Valerie Plame. But it is, yeah, and I hope that doesn't sort of put a bow on that struggle for her as a character going forward, because that was like a really where her ex-husband early on in one of the earlier episodes was literally like,
you will not ruin this. No. And that's real. But
she had to make that choice.
But that's real life. Like I was like, oh, they dug deep. They said, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to be like, oh, I'll give you a chance. He was like, nope.
Right.
Well, yeah. And I think that they have really sort of leaned into these questions because of how you live that kind of life, the life in the stars, the life of danger, and have that not be your only life. Like at a certain point, you have to leave that behind. What is the rest of your life like when you're not facing danger every day and that's what you're used to? Or what are your other relationships like with your family because of the choice that you've made to do that? And that is, and they really leaned that into every character.
Yeah. That's the reason that Beverly kept Jack from Picard. There's that great scene where she's like, you'll always be pursued, you'll always be in danger, and I didn't want Jack to have that life. I wanted to keep him safe from that, which was wrong, I think, on her part, like to make that decision for her son's father, that you don't get to be a part of his life. And it's also interesting that then she protected him by like taking him on the Doctors Without Borders like world that she went into, but whatever.
Yes, exactly. She brought him into a very dangerous life,
but whatever.
It was danger for the good, not because of your father's name.
That's true. If she really wanted to protect him, she would have just started her like little community theater and dance troupe somewhere.
Well, and they
were a community doctor.
They were
on an outpost.
Dr. Quinn.
Oh my God. They were really smart though in connecting that to her story with Wesley. Right? Because that is the great like Beverly neglect of TNG, is that she never actually got to be Wesley's mom.
Yeah.
And she never got to be the source of wisdom for Wesley and all of that, right? And that they never really, like, Wesley like went off with the Traveler, right? And gave up his life. I mean, we saw that all happen in TNG. And then she just kind of carried on and had episodes after that, like
he's out. Bye. See you later.
Right. You never really got to like lean into like she lost her son, really. Right. He's still alive, but she lost him.
She lost her son, and that's why she held on to this one so tight. What it's sort of like? They wrote it as if she truly had a child die, right? When they say when parents have like two kids and they may lose a kid, they hold on so much tighter to the one that the remaining child, because it's like, I don't want to lose you too. And not that Jack was born while Wesley was still around, because he was long gone, but in that instance, she's like, I'm going to hold so tight to you. And yes, they were on there marauding, giving, Doctors Without Borders, but where was he? Right next to her. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
We're going to do this together. You're not going to have a job outside of the job we're doing.
Right. In that first episode, the first thing she does is when they're being boarded is lock him in a room safe away from the gunfire, or the phaser fire or whatever.
Yeah, it's really interesting that it's kind of a risky choice. I mean, they really risked the audience losing sympathy with her.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
because I was mad.
Mm-hmm.
But did you forgive her? Are you
Absolutely.
still mad at her?
No. I was mad as a parent, right? Like thinking about if I had a kid with someone and didn't know. I mean, if tables were turned, right? Like if there was a kid out there somewhere that I'm the mother of that I don't know about
I'm
until
not sure how
21.
that would work.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like I have to, yeah, like I
I know.
can't. I'm trying to
I know.
empathize with a character that is not me. like if Kai took, like literally, if the +1 took the dictator and was like, I was in a coma. I was pregnant and in a coma, and next thing you know, I wake up out of my coma. And it's like, nope, there was kid spontaneously disappeared, and I learned 21 years later that dictator was actual. No, I would be furious. But then, there was a reason. Didn't think I was going to wake up, so you had to go on with your life. Completely different circumstances, but I'm just saying, like,
I love that you invented this, and you a whole new show.
Whole new show.
It's a whole new show.
But I understand her reasoning. True, I get it. But she did. I think she needed to mea culpa just a little bit more. Like, I feel like the apology could have been slightly more.
But how about that scene in episode 3, just the two of them? Oh God, you're like, like, there's and I'm going to say this for Crusher and Picard, but also for Riker and Troy, that those relationships were set up in the first episode, and they never paid off. They never gave us what we wanted. And to see, and now I'm going to skip to Riker and Troy, because that scene where they're in the cell together.
Oh,
I just like, and it was, and it was so beautiful because they kind of they wrote that scene kind of around the emotions, right? Where he calls her Imzadi, and she's like, I should have taught you a different word.
Yeah.
Right? Because as the audience, you're like, oh my God, he always does that. It's so corny, right? And then for her to like be the voice of the audience,
call it,
be like, oh God, like find another word. Like it is so true, and it's so like. And did you watch the featurette to hear them talk about working together?
No.
How I think I said this before, that they decided early on that because they loved working together, that they wanted to lean into the setup that they were given, that those two characters were in love. And they insist that the entire time that they were on that show together, that they played every scene with that present in some kind of way. Every time they were both in the same scene, that they love each other.
But you can see it and feel it. No, and that's what a long-term relationship looks like. That's true love. You're like, oh, I want to sock you, but I still love you. And she
fucked him up so bad. She did, in a way that you're like, you would never think that that a grieving Betazoid is like flooded with all these other people's emotions and can't bear it. And it kind of makes sense that like after all these years, like her powers are more advanced than they used to be, so she can do these like fucked up things. And like it is, it was heartbreaking, and it was so like juicy to get to see them like play that shit together, to finally like play the actual scene. And same in the Crusher and Picard scene in episode 3, where they finally like have it out. You're like, this is what we have been wanting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like they used to have breakfast. You remember those scenes where she would come to his quarters for breakfast? And it was like, and it was always like, it was nice because you could tell they were comfortable, but there was always that weird tension there where you're like, you're not talking about what you're really thinking.
Right.
Because couldn't go there.
I did get frustrated with Troy when she promises to Jack, like, I'll be here with you. You're going through this together. You won't be alone. And then she like bolted.
Did she bolt, or was she kicked out?
No, she bolted. She bolted because she was like, because she literally was like, we are all in danger.
Yeah. Well, she went to be like,
He is the danger.
Yeah.
Okay.
She went right to Picard to be like, Borg alert, Borg alert.
Okay.
But really, I don't know. It just really annoyed me because it left him going like, "What did you see?" Like yelling after her. And it just and then they never clear that up. Like she never has a moment with him where she's like, sorry, I abandoned you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because then Picard goes to him to say like, "Oh, listen, I got a little Borg on you. Sorry." We're gonna put you in a Vulcan Institute where they'll mind meld and fix you.
I did like truly the new way, the new Borg, the new way that the Borg got in. Like,
oh yeah, the like biological.
Right.
That's wild that it can happen without the tubes and you have to be there. It's like, oh no, it's like a little virus. I cough in your face. It's like
also they're not
outbreak.
They're not trying to assimilate. They're there to destroy.
It
is a vengeance mission.
Yeah.
Do you think? Well, what's the end game? Do you think if they had won, would those Borg? I mean, I guess they would have just kept going, right? And attacking other. I mean, they said, if Earth falls, then everyone dies. Right. It's like that. Okay. Drama. But like, come on.
Drama much.
Like, Kronos is like, excuse me, if Earth falls, we're gonna what? Anyway. The other thing that I got annoyed about was I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just like airing all the grievances. And this, I don't know if this happened spontaneously, but it seems like these writers came up with this idea that all the ships are networked together and with a like virus, and they can all turn on each other. And the end of Prodigy, all the ships are networked together with a virus and they turn on each other. And I think it's a recurring theme that just I don't know. I had a moment of like, ugh, this again. And we can tell they're evil because their lights have turned red. Like, didn't we just see this in Prodigy? And they did the same thing in Lower Decks with the those fully automated ships.
Yes, because AI is bad. This is what they're saying.
All
AI
these writers' rooms came up with the same, right? AI
is terrible. I mean, let's go back to HAL 3000.
Right.
AI is going to ruin everything.
Right. Maybe Chat GPT wrote these episodes and they're that's one of the things that the Writers Guild is striking about, because they're afraid that they'll start using AI to write things, which is crazy.
But I don't but that has no okay. I think that will be I know, I just because I think it'll fall flat. Because okay, you can get AI to write something, but does AI understand soul? Does AI understand intention? Does AI understand human emotion?
Well, AI, if you look at like the human art that they everybody's got the wrong amount of fingers. You notice that? They can't.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's got like 6 or 7 fingers.
So practically they can't. No, I mean, it's interesting. It's like I don't know. I'm not concerned about that. Like,
yeah,
you're always going to need some type of human touch for us to be able to relate to it. Like, yeah, those pictures that you see that they're creating, they're beautiful, but
yeah,
there's no soul behind it. Like, there's no, like, no one has given their like blood, sweat, and tears to create it. Like, when we look at these masterpieces that have been created by hand, whether it's painting or photography or something that's knit or quilted, like, you can see someone's intention, like, with that stroke, with the framing of the picture or the landscape. AI is just like, okay, let's mountain.
Yeah.
My opinion. People can be like,
No, I think
we
you're
can
right,
have-"
and I think that you're right that the writers are trying to use that as a theme, that AI is bad, and that there's a way to blindly go into it in the name of progress. I mean, all these other Starfleet officers are like, this is great. We can network all our ships and use them, be a united force to defend.
One
And
hive,
it's
one
like,
mind.
yeah, one hive, one mind. Like nobody thought like, wait a second, even Shelby didn't even think about the Borg connection, and how Borgy that is. I like that word, Borgy. We've said that a couple times today.
I think I'm down with it. Trademark.
Okay, well, I think we are nearing the end of our time. What else do we need to cover?
That this last episode of this final series made me sob from start to finish, and I did not expect it. That I laid in my room watching the final episode of Picard, like in between sobbing and being like, that's amazing, and then at certain moments my heart being torn from my chest, and at the very end again, that I just love that they went all the way back. So let's sit down and play cards, and I watched till the very end. The overhead. I watched every moment.
Oh my God! Who would have stopped there? I mean,
someone been like, "I'm done." I just sobbed. I just cried. I cried listening to Captain give 7 of 9, all of her kudos, and watching her eyes well up.
That was a beautiful scene, and I defend that they did it with Tuvok and not Janeway. I thought it was great.
It was a beautiful scene.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect to be touched so deeply by the end of this in that way, where it's like, we knew Picard had his family back together because at the end of the original Next Gen, he came and played cards, right? But to have them have that moment at the bar, cheersing, and then to really tie it all up and be like, we are family. We're still going to sit here. It moved me in a way. And I was like, going to bed like puffy eyed and red nose. It was great.
I see. I'm of the mindset. People talk about, what is Star Trek really about? Star Trek is about hope for the future. Star Trek is about exploring ideas and all true things. But for me, when it comes down to it, it is about friendship. It is about family, about camaraderie. It is about your crew. It is about these relationships with these people, and that they knew exactly what that was. All of those moments when Picard had such depth of feeling for these people, and he was gonna, and you felt him about to say something so like smarmy on the nose, and then he turns and he says, "It's a pleasure serving with all of you," or an honor serving with, right? And you're like,
yeah,
that's not what he means. That's not what he means. He means so much more than that. And that, and we all have like the history and the storytelling in these new episodes to know the depth of what he means. And it hits in all the right places. And it is what I think Star Trek is about more than all of the other things. It is about those relationships and those friendships and
sacrificing to keep them safe, intact, no matter what. Like the self-sacrifice to be like him going and be like, oh, I'm going to save my son. Like, okay, you want me? Take me. Let him go.
So I'm going to do a rewatch of the entire thing from episode 1, but I have been sort of obsessing over all of the themes that the musical themes that they've been using.
Oh yeah.
So that is going to be my so I've been I'm trying to refamiliarize myself with all of the soundtracks, because I don't have that like easy music recall, but I want to be
reference
able to
a lot, apparently.
A lot. There's so many themes. There's so many of them, and there's more than I'm able to catch. So I want to find that somewhere. I want to do that and be tuned into all of those.
Yeah.
Because supposedly there's like a Star Trek 4 theme when they find the bounty, right? The Klingon ship and the cloaking device and all of that, and like
that one episode alone is probably a minefield of musical cues.
You get the Voyager when she looks at the ship. I mean, that was just a full tug at the heart.
That punch.
I mean, I love all of that's one thing I do love about Star Trek, that they lean in. Like, we're creating a new world, we're giving you a new theme song.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna I don't know who the musical geniuses are, but somehow they are perfectly matched with each version of the show. Like the long sweeping, I mean, Deep Space Nine has the longest intro ever, but it's just
which I love the
you
lower
love it
decks
so
when
much?
they do that, when they're like take another lap around and then
Right,
they play
right.
the theme song. I mean, it's so good. I mean, that's actually the one. I mean, when I mostly skip the openings, Deep Space Nine, I never skip it. I always watch the entire.
You say that, and I'm like, it is so long. I let it go, and then I'm like, skip intro, and let's get the. But I feel like they're also they're perfectly matched with each version of the show.
Yeah.
So that's my task is to find all of those little musical cues, and apparently there's like recurring themes for. I don't think I'm the guy for this. Someone else is smarter and has a musical ear that's going to find all these things. But I definitely want to pay closer attention to that and see what I can find.
I hope they, publish a soundtrack for the season.
They're going to have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the First Contact theme, by the way, is like burned into my brain now because that's the closing music that comes up that they use. And it's just so good.
Mm-hmm. I think I had such an emotional reaction to seeing the Enterprise D again and the bridge, because it's the comfort food. It's like it is, it's like our family, home. It's home. Absolutely.
Warm fuzzy socks, that blanket that you curl up with, your favorite stuffed animal that you slept with when you were sick, when you were lonely. Like, it just,
when you've had a bad
perfect.
day, it's like, exactly.
What do you remember? Like when you're sick at home, you're like, okay, I'm getting soup and crackers and ginger ale, and I get to sit down and watch like daytime TV. The Price is Right. Like,
The Price is
Bob
Right.
Barker, and you're cuddled up and like, you're like, oh, this is the best. It's comfort.
Yeah. It's comfort food, but better. Yeah.
But better. Chicken soup for the soul.
Chicken soup for the Trekkie soul.
And the brain.
Plomeek soup for the soul. All right. Well, I think we are going to wrap it up. Thank you, Lanita, so much for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.
And going down this nerdy path with us.
Yes.
Woohoo. And thank you, Damian, as always.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
And thank you, listener, for tuning in. If you like what you've heard, give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Hailing Freak Open, or on our webpage at hailingfrequenciesopen.com. Until next time, I'll say Hailing Frequencies closed.